So you're probably thinking, oh, okay, this class is going to be about a contemporary classical composer. But lest anyone think that's contemporary, that piece was written in 1936. Yes, 36. Doesn't that sound fresh? When I first heard it, I thought it was, something in the 80s, 90s, or now written. But 1936, we're going to talk about a composer that was way ahead of his time. And we're just going to have a great time. By the way, hey now, and good morning, PSW. Just thought I'd open up with some music instead. We got to switch it up a little bit. So today we're going to be talking about the brilliant composer, Colin McPhee. So I apologize if anyone thought I said Catherine McPhee. We're not going to be talking about Catherine McPhee. That'll be another class. Colin McPhee was one of the first Western composers to make to study the music of Bali. We're going to look at Bali. We're going to go there, but was really one of the first Western composers to study, and we're going to talk about world music. How did he do that? Where did he go? What are we gonna do? It's just gonna be a lot of fun. But we need to, let's take our map. Let's go from Hollywood and go down to Bali. Where is that? That's a province of Indonesia. So he's not born in Indonesia. He's Canadian, like I said. Born in Montreal, and he's born in 1900. Again, I like these years because it's easy for me to do the math. And dies in 1964, so doesn't live that long. Enrolls in Peabody Institute, which is one of the best music schools really in the world. It's in Baltimore. So he studies in 1918, studies composition and piano, and on his way to being a classical composer, and spends some time in New York, and then joins this circle of different experimental composers. They're called ultra-modernists, which sounds like boring music, but he actually discovers world music. How does he do that? Well, he marries this woman who's an anthropologist. He's gay, and they divorce, but he marries her, and they move to Bali. Once there, Colin gets very interested. He's a photographer, great photographer, and also starts filming and writing about the culture and the music of the gamelans. That sounds like something from Harry Potter, right? We're talking about gamelan music today. This is the instrumentation and the music that people in Bali are playing. Here's just a little example of what gamelan music sounds like. So as you hear, it's mostly percussive music, right? And a lot of mallets, hand-played drums. They have a beat going. They have xylophones and bamboo flutes and some bowed instruments and all these cool percussive sounds. That's kind of a contemporary video I just wanted to show you. So when he gets to Bali, he's like, "What? Stop the clock! What are these guys doing over here?" And he becomes really less interested in classical music and more interested in in Balinese music. So he starts notating and their melodies and their rhythms and of all the gamelan he heard. So he's credited with saving a number of these gamelans that were likely to go out of existence. So he's doing this in the 30s for the most part, 20s, 30s. He spends a lot of time down there. In 1947, he publishes a book, A House in Bali. So he was a writer as well about Balinese culture and music during the 1930s. What is he going to do with this kind of stuff? It's one thing to study it, to really be into it, to get the feel for it. Well, the main piece we're going to look at is the piece that opened the class, Tabuheim. That's kind of maybe his most famous piece. This was composed actually in Mexico and premiered in 1936 by Carlos Chavez and the National Orchestra of Mexico City. So this was written after he had spent about 4 years in Bali, engaged in the musical research there, and he said he was inspired by various methods he learned in the gamelan technique. So we're going to hear different drum rhythms, metric forms, gong punctuations, gamelans, and mostly percussive music with an orchestra, with a classical orchestra. So he's got this great classical training, but he's going to be using the music of Bali and all this stuff to produce his masterpiece in 1936. What are we hearing? We're hearing a lot of repetitive percussive movement, right? We're hearing ostinati, which is ostinato, which is a repetitive recurring movement. We hear that all the time with popular music, whether it's meditation like music, a pulse, we always we write with a pulse. It's different than a rock beat, but it's got waves. It's like an ocean, right? So it's multi-layered rhythms that he's doing. So he's using the classical orchestra with this kind of percussive thing. This is what John Adams and Steve Reich and Philip Glass do. This is minimalism for the most part. He's doing minimalism in the 30s. They start doing it in the 60s. I think they credit him a lot, but I mean, some of his pieces. Listen to this piece, and then we're going to listen to a John Adams piece. So that's Colin McPhee's piece. Now listen to a piece by John Adams that was written 30, 40 years later. Very similar, right? Very soothing music. To me, I know I go back to minimalism a lot because it's very cerebral. It's calming to me. Sometimes it can be chaotic, but I mean, there's a movement to it that's there's a rhythm to it that's very soothing, at least to me, and I think to you guys too, because minimalism doesn't need to be just repetitive, going on forever and ever. It can, as we know with minimalism, it sounds like it's the same thing, but it's actually changing very subtly in different ways with all these different movements going on. So because of the war, he leaves Bali and he goes to New York. He lives in this brownstone and hangs out with other composers like Benjamin Britten and other people that we'll talk about. And he influences them. They start taking notice of this different kind of music. We looked at Villalobos. Remember, all those composers were interested in Brazilian music. They were like, we're just doing this boring classical music, but you're bringing these rhythms from Brazil. Colin McPhee went to Bali and said, they're doing this gamelan type music, this Balinese music, and these guys are doing it. Let's see if there's a way to incorporate this. There's otherworldly music out there besides the music we study at the conservatory. This is and they were big fans of it. So kind of goes into a depression and alcoholism, but becomes faculty member at UCLA in 1960 until his death in 1964. So he taught composition, but he also taught ethnomusicology, he's one of the first pioneers of ethnomusicology. Ethnomusicology, as we know, it's the study of music from the cultural and social aspects of the people who make it. So the people in Bali were making music. They were just doing just like we make music in our room. And he's studying that. He's looking at it from a cultural and societal aspect of understanding, they're doing this. Let's explore this. Let's either, because he was a composer, let's take this and use it I'm going to borrow some of this. But as a professor too, he's saying we need to analyze this kind of music and understand it and put it into cultural making it part of our culture. So that's Colin McPhee, way ahead of his time. Thought we'd do a little class on world music. Lovely, some beautiful music he's written. There's just, some of these pieces I just love, and they're so fun, full of rhythm. So hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun for me. Colin McPhee, great. We'll do Catherine later. Okay, love you, miss you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.